Forming a U.S. company is a good way of expanding your business into the U.S. if you're not a U.S. citizen or if you operate a foreign company. The best business structure to use when forming a business in the USA is an LLC or limited liability company. Anyone can form an LLC in the USA. You do not need to be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. company. In this video, we'll go over the steps to forming an LLC in the U.S. For more information on what an LLC is, check out our other video, What is an LLC, linked below. Anyone can form a limited liability company in the USA. You don't need to be a U.S. citizen or a U.S. company. Foreign citizens and foreign companies can form an LLC in the U.S. The biggest factor you'll need to consider when forming your US LLC is compliance and ensuring that all state and federal requirements are met so you can legally start and run a business in America from overseas. There are international US business services that provide a full service experience from forming your business to setting up your American bank account in one package. You can also use our guides and do the work yourself. Just keep in mind that forming an LLC in the US does not grant you any visas to work in the US. The steps to form your foreign-owned LLC are: select a state, name your LLC, hire a registered agent service, file your LLC with the state, create an LLC operating agreement, get an EIN, get a US physical mailing address, open a US bank account, and prepare for US tax filing. You can complete these steps on your own with the help of our guides, or use an international US business service that handles everything. We recommend using Globalfy. They'll help you with things like getting a US business address, business banking, filing US tax returns, and just about everything you'll need in the business formation process. You can check them out by using our link below. Let's take a look at the first step, which is selecting a state. It's usually advisable to form an LLC in a state without state taxes, so you only have to handle US federal taxes. However, for the purpose of your business, if you need to open offices or have a physical presence in a particular state, you'll need to form an LLC in that state. When choosing the state to form your US LLC in, it's usually best to first consider if you'll have a physical office or presence, like employees or a job site, in a specific state. If this is the case, it's best to form your LLC in that state. This avoids needing to register your LLC as a foreign LLC and hiring registered agents in multiple states. However, if your business does not have this physical need, it's usually advisable to form your LLC in a state without state taxes, so you only have to handle US federal taxes. The 3 states you should consider are Wyoming, Delaware, and Nevada. We recommend Wyoming as they have foreigner-friendly laws, lower filing and annual fees, and no state, personal, corporate, or capital gains taxes. The next step is naming your LLC. Every state has its own rules about what kinds of names are allowed for LLCs. In general, you'll need to observe these guidelines. Your name must include the phrase limited liability company or one of its abbreviations like LLC or LLC with a period after each letter. Your name cannot include words that could confuse your LLC with a government agency, such as FBI, Treasury, State Department, etc. Restricted words like bank, attorney, and university may require additional paperwork and a licensed individual, such as a doctor or lawyer, to be part of your LLC. We recommend that you check to see if your business name is available as a web domain. Even if you don't plan to make a business website today, you may want to buy the URL in order to prevent others from acquiring it. After deciding on a name, you'll want to hire a registered agent. A registered agent is a person or business that sends and receives legal papers on your behalf. Most states require every LLC to nominate a registered agent. Your registered agent must be a resident of the state you're doing business in, or a corporation authorized to conduct business in that state. It's typically best to hire a registered agent service for your non-resident owned business, as the service you hire will have a physical address in your business's state and will be open all required hours to accept service of process and other compliance notices. After you get a registered agent, you'll want to file the LLC with the state. To officially file an LLC, you'll need to file your documents with the state. The most common name for this document is the Articles of Organization. It's also known as a certificate of formation or certificate of organization. Your LLC formation document outlines the organizational structure of your business. Your articles of organization will define if your company is member managed or manager managed. This is an important distinction that's determined by how your company runs. Next, you'll create an LLC operating agreement. An operating agreement is not required in most states, but it's a good practice to have one. An operating agreement is a legal document outlining the ownership and operating procedures of an LLC. And why are operating agreements important? A comprehensive operating agreement ensures that all business owners are on the same page and reduces the risk of future conflict. After you've created an operating agreement, you'll want to get an EIN. You need to obtain an employer identification number, also called an EIN, which is a tax ID for your LLC. You do not need a US Social Security number, an individual tax identification number, or a US mailing address to get an EIN. While these identification numbers do allow for the IRS's online application process to get an EIN, there are other options for non-resident entrepreneurs. An application can be submitted by fax or mail. If you'd like to file for an EIN yourself, then filling out, signing, and faxing IRS Form SS4 Application for Employer Identification Number is the fastest option, typically taking up to 1 week to receive a reply. According to some sources, line 7B, where the Social Security number, individual tax identification number, or EIN of the responsible party is defined, can be filled out as none-foreign, or similar wording to designate that the responsible party is a non-resident or foreigner filing for a US EIN. Here's a list of the fax numbers used by the IRS to file Form SS4, which depends on if the location of your business's principal office or agency, or your primary residence, is within or outside the US. Filing Form SS4 by mail is similar to filing by fax in that you'll fill out, sign, and send the completed form to the IRS. This option, however, takes a much longer time, typically up to 4 to 5 weeks to receive the EIN. The IRS address and attention designations for your submission will also depend on if your office, agency, or primary residence is based outside of the US. After applying for an EIN, you'll then need to get a physical US mailing address. You'll need a physical address in the state you choose. This is necessary to open a bank account and for LLC formation. One way to get a mailing address in the US is to establish a physical office in the state you're going to form and do business in if this is required for your business. But even if you do not need to open a physical office in the US, you'll still need a US mailing address in your LLC state. Some services, like Earth Class Mail, can provide a real US mailing address, which is required to register for a US bank account and is useful for other services. You can check them out using our link below. They also receive mail on your company's behalf to scan and deliver to you online and forward packages out of the country. The next thing you'll need to do is open a US bank account. After you have successfully established your business in the US, you'll need to set up a US bank account. This offers several benefits for foreign-owned LLCs, including the ability to trade in US dollars and have access to affordable international transfers from anywhere in the world. Opening a US business account offers several other additional financial benefits, including increased credibility, increased access to business loans, increased savings, stronger business credit, and higher liquidity. Besides the financial benefits, there are important practical and legal considerations to opening a business checking account in the US, which is one of the reasons that it remains so highly recommended by the IRS. For example, establishing a separate business checking account can go a long way in maintaining your LLC's corporate veil. This is an invisible cloak that's used to describe your legal protections as an incorporated entity, including your right to limited personal liability under the law. Keep in mind that you'll be required to pay US taxes for revenue that's generated from trade or business that has taken place within the US. An LLC is considered to be engaged in trade or business in the US if it satisfies the following criteria. It has one or more dependent agents in the US. This is an employee that works for your LLC almost exclusively, and that dependent agent partakes in activities that significantly further your business's activities within the US, or your LLC is engaged in considerable, continuous, and regular business within the US. Courts have not provided a clear definition for what constitutes a considerable, continuous, and regular business activity, but, generally speaking, an LLC will be subject to U.S. taxes for revenue that's been generated as a result of business activity within the U.S. You'll need to file different forms with the IRS depending on whether you are a single-member LLC or an LLC partnership. The process of opening a U.S. bank account can be quite complicated, but this will ultimately depend on the bank in question. Most conventional brick-and-mortar banks require in-person visits or proof of address in the form of a physical address or a utility bill. For obvious reasons, this can be quite inconvenient or even practically impossible for business owners outside the US. Having said that, there are several high-end digital banking platforms that do not have the same qualification criteria. The application requirements can vary with each online banking platform. Most require the following documents: your articles of organization. This can also be known as a certificate of organization or certificate of formation, depending on your state. A US address. This can be a virtual mailing address or the address of your registered agent. Your employer identification number. You can do this by calling 267-941-1099, but you'll need to be authorized to receive the EIN and be able to answer questions that concern Form SS4, Application for Employer Identification Number. Proof of identification. As an international applicant, this will likely need to be your passport. And an LLC operating agreement. This may be required, but you'll have to assess this on a case-by-case basis. Even if it's not required, it's generally recommended that you draft an LLC operating agreement from a practical standpoint. The final step you'll need to do when opening a company in the US is prepare for US tax filing. The US Internal Revenue Service creates the tax code and regulations for LLCs. A foreigner-owned LLC is taxed based on how many members the LLC has. Single-member LLCs are LLCs with only one member. Non-resident single-member LLC owners must file Forms 1040-NR, Form 5472, and Form 1120. Multi-member LLCs are LLCs with more than one member. Multi-member LLCs must file Forms 1040-NR, Form 5472, and Form 1065. Keep in mind, the penalty for failure to file Form 5472 is $25,000 per return and $25,000 accrued each month thereafter until the form is successfully submitted to the IRS. This form can be difficult to complete. We recommend becoming familiar with it before your business tax return is due. The biggest factor you'll need to consider when forming your US LLC is compliance and assuring that all state and federal requirements are met so you can legally start and run a business in America from overseas. To form your US LLC and start doing business in the US, you must select a state, name your LLC, hire a registered agent service, file your LLC, create an LLC operating agreement, get an EIN, get a physical US mailing address, open a business bank account, and prepare for US tax filing. For more information on starting a company in the US and more detailed guides, check out our pages at howtostartanllc.com linked below. Give the video a like if you found it useful and subscribe if you'd like to see more. If you have any questions or encounter any roadblocks, leave a comment below. Good luck in starting your business.